The following is a member of the Burt Reviews podcast family. BurtReviews.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to a Burke Reviews Movie Club. I'm John Burke, and with me as always is Corey Starr.
Special guest star. Hello. No, I'm kidding.
Yes. We are continuing with our Paul Thomas Anderson month of May. We watched last week Inherent Vice, and this week we watched Boogie Nights, which we'll be getting into our review a little later on the podcast. But before we do that, we like to kind of catch up with our week. Corey's had a busy week, and I want to hear some of that, and I've had a couple of tough days, but seen a lot of movies, so we'll get into what we've been watching. Corey, how was Shaky Knees Festival?
It was amazing. It was so amazing. I've already, decided that we're going again next year, so there's that. It was really, really good. The weather was great. Yeah, it only rained for like 30 minutes out of the whole festival, even though it was like overcast for 2 days. And when it rained, we just so happened to be under the only covered like stage.
Oh, okay.
So that's awesome. Yeah, it was just really, really, really good. I really liked in Atlanta. We got to go to Terminal West twice for our late night shows, and that was amazing. Yeah, I didn't feel as old as I thought I was going to.
How did it work? Is it like all outdoor venues or some indoors?
So the actual Shaky Knees took place at Central Park in Atlanta, and so that's like it had 4 different stages. We mostly spent our time at the main stage, and then the second stage, I think it was the Peachtree, was the main, and then Piedmont, and then I forget the name of the other 2 stages, but we only went to the one stage to see Andrew WK, and we didn't even visit the other one. But then they had opportunities for you to buy additional tickets to go to late night shows at different venues around Atlanta. So Brendan introduced me to this band, The Wigs, a few years ago. He sent me a mix CD, and I loved that song. So I went and I bought that album, and I bought another one of their albums. And they just so happened to be playing the one album that he introduced me to, Mission Control, front to back for their 10th anniversary. So that kicked off. They were doing 2 shows that Thursday night because the festival started on Friday. And then we got to see Parquet Courts late Friday night. So those late night shows are additional tickets you can buy, and they were like $15 to $20 or $25 a piece, and so amazing. Yeah.
And I had another question, but I think so. It's how many days was the actual festival? 5?
The actual festival starts on Friday and ends on Sunday.
Oh, okay, 3.
We had that kickoff thing on Thursday night.
So, and you don't camp out there, though? It's not like old school livestock.
Hell no.
I mean,
do you think I would camp?
Well, could you, though? If you wanted
to?
It's not one of the options. Okay.
No, because it gets trashed. There were so many people. It just gets trashed, and I was just surprised every day when we went in, and it was so freaking clean.
Wow.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I really liked Atlanta.
Yeah, I liked Atlanta when I visited. I didn't go for a concert, but I went a few years ago for a conference, and there's some really nice parts of Atlanta. We went to our meetings were at the Atlanta International School, which is a private school. And
fancy.
It was a Harvard Project Zero arts infused training that I was at. It was a really cool experience, but yeah, we went to a really awesome Thai food place. It was the first time I ever had Thai food. I think it was Thai food. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Thai food. I have had a tough week. You had a good week because you went to, although I guess it must have been kind of tough coming home after being in a nonstop concert for 3 days.
Bliss. Yeah.
My seniors at school, it was their last week this week. So it's always, sad to say goodbye, and also excited to see them leave because they are pursuing now some, I have a few students who are going to go off and pursue either film or journalism. as a career. They're going, they got into different schools for those fields, and it's exciting to see what they do next. Although sad to see them leave. So it's always like a mixed week, and Thursday in particular was like emotionally, I was so drained. I had a whole yearbook thing. I won't get into all the specifics, but it was a long day yesterday. But I still managed to fit in quite a bit of viewing this week, although not as much as normal. I did skip a couple of days of film watching, although we haven't spoke since April.
Last Tuesday.
Yeah, basically April 1st. Or no, I'm sorry, not April 1st. Yes, a month ago. May 1st was the last day we spoke. And so, yeah, I've seen a few things since then. How about you? Have you been able to watch anything?
Yes. So in theaters, we actually, I gave you money for your draft. I saw in 3D also. Avengers Infinity Wars, and I just need to complain for a minute, and I already complained on Facebook.
Let's just be clear, we're not going to give spoilers though, right?
I don't feel like it's a spoiler. Well, I don't feel like it's a spoiler, because I feel like if I watched any freaking trailers, I would probably have noticed too. But what happened to the Scarlet Witch's really bad gypsy accent?
Oh, that's not a spoiler.
No.
I mean, I feel like, one, we should preface that you hate Elizabeth Olsen.
I don't hate her. I just think that she is one of the most mediocre actresses ever, and I don't understand why she keeps getting work when there are so many amazing actresses that don't. But anyway, I saw that in 3D on Sunday, and then... Sorry, go ahead.
I thought we were going to talk about her accent.
Oh, yeah, let's go ahead. Talk about her accent. Let's go.
I heard other people point out that her Scarlet Witch's accent from whatever country they made up, I don't remember what it's called, is missing in this movie. And I've heard a few different attempts of explanations. One, the most likely, is that it was pointless. Why bother? Just let her speak normal. You could justify it. Maybe Vision taught her to cover her accent. Maybe she just did. Her powers in the comics are pretty extensive. The Scarlet Witch is the reason that at one point in the comics, most of the mutants in the Marvel Universe vanished, simply by saying "no more mutants." I believe it was the word she uttered, and that's how excessively powerful she is. So it's possible
she should be able to muster up a good accent.
Maybe she got rid of her accent with her powers, is where I was going with it. Although that's not officially said or anything like that. But yeah, it is what it is. Maybe they also realized that I don't believe Wanda in the comics has an accent, so it probably should have never had an accent to begin with. But whatever,
And was it last night? No, on Wednesday night, I finally saw Tully.
Oh, that's right. And that movie's disappointing me in box office. The movie's fantastic. I've seen it twice.
Yeah, the movie's amazing.
I loved it both times. There is a major spoiler we won't talk about that you had texted me about.
I felt so smart.
I'm still pretty impressed at when you discovered something. But, I got to see it at the Florida Film Festival and then again at Tribeca with Jason Reitman
that's right.
at Tribeca, which was really cool. As I'm a fan of his, at least his 3 movies with Diablo Cody. But it's not doing very well in the box office, and that's even for the few screens that it's still not doing well comparatively. And I don't know why people aren't going to see it. I don't know if it's just not enough exposure, or if people don't get who these people are. I don't know. I thought Charlize Theron would be a draw alone because she's been doing so well in these big blockbusters. I thought she'd bring a fan base to the film, but I don't know. I'm hoping maybe this weekend with Mother's Day. I saw Mark Duplass was tweeting about it earlier. He plays her brother in the movie. And I think we're possibly going to be going to see it. It's not at our local theater, but it is at our at Cinepolis at Posner Park, where the Target is.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually there. So and it's also in our Lakeland theater. So I'm hoping that's what we're going to do on Mother's Day. Go watch a movie about a mother and motherhood. And
I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No. But I'm hoping that's what Kathy's going to want to do. She's definitely interested in Tully, but she's also there was something else playing at this, an older movie is playing somewhere on Sunday that she was interested in. So I don't know for sure what we're doing yet. But we're also recording Top 5 Sunday evening, and then I have to talk to you about an interview episode that I'm recording immediately after our top 5 recording on Sunday. So,
heck.
yeah, you don't have to do it, but we'll talk. We'll talk when this is over. Behind the curtain.
Okay. So, in full whatever I was gonna say, in full disclosure, but it doesn't even need to be disclosed. But anyways, I was dying laughing at Tully. I was laughing so hard.
Yeah, there's some really funny parts.
She's so many funny things.
I don't think I've ever seen her give so much sarcasm in a film.
Yeah.
And I really liked her doing that a whole lot. I mean, Diablo Cody's written that way before. Obviously, it reminded me of like if Juno had grown up and had babies, kind of at times.
Yeah.
Like it's not quite the same level of sarcasm, but it's still there. And I thought she nailed a lot of the jokes. Like her timing was so good. I
felt like it was a pretty honest portrayal of being a mom. I'm not a mom, but we all see how moms, like, you have to act like you just love your kids all the time and that they're perfect and you never get frustrated and blah, 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 and it's totally not realistic. And I just really appreciated that.
Yeah.
I think that it made it even more funny.
And I picked up on you can see Diablo Cody kind of her evolution as an adult through the 3 films that she's done with Reitman. I mean, Juno, she was much older than the character, but you could tell that's like the idea of like being a teenager and having this big responsibility kind of coming up and how it can affect your life and whatnot. And then Young Adult, which I don't know if you've seen or not, but
I haven't. I want to.
That is like that point where you are needing to be a grown-up, but you're not willing to make the decisions of a grown-up, so you're kind of stuck in
right now.
This middle area. Yeah, maybe not. You're much more functional than the character in the movie, but that one is also played by Charlize Theron. And then Tully is, an adult woman looking back at her life and being happy, but also having regrets, and then being just exhausted with the act of motherhood, like especially for a newborn, and then having the other 2 children already, and all the struggles. It's just, I don't know, you just see this kind of evolution as like she's exploring her life in a way that is impressive and honest and open and yet, endearing and funny at times, and it's just really refreshing.
I really like to, and I don't feel like this is a spoiler, but how things seem really bad, or like that it's not a decision you want to have to make, and that it ends up being the best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it shows that it does work out, and maybe this isn't what you would have chosen in the first place, but it's actually better.
Yeah, I really like it, and that's one everyone should definitely check out. This is not a review of Tully, obviously, but I do have a review up at BurkeReviews.com though if you want to see my thoughts. It is spoiler free, so feel free to check that out, and then check out the movie. I've seen a few things. I had a couple of rewatches, but they were rewatches with my wife who hadn't seen them, so that's always fun. So the day after we recorded, we watched The Shape of Water, which she hadn't seen, and I actually liked it even more the third time.
Oh.
Every time I watch the movie, I appear to love it more and more. She liked it for sure. I don't know how much she loved it, but she definitely liked it. Although I did get a judgment feel at one point, because it's my daughter's favorite movie right now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and so there was the part early in the film with him having sex. I could feel the eyes on me of you took our daughter to see this, and I'm just going
don't make eye contact.
Yeah, but the next night I went and saw Overboard, the new remake of the 80s classic with Anna Faris and the actor's name, who I feel so bad I can never remember. I really like him in this movie, actually. And that was the big shock for me. I had a really great time with Overboard. I kind of loved it. I wouldn't say it's a must-see by any means, but it was a lot of fun, and I actually really enjoyed the characters. Eugenio Derbez is so great. He's so charming and so funny, and yet he's got kind of a bit of an annoying voice, but it works really well with the character. And there's some endearing stuff. It's definitely, there's some elements of mature, a person becoming an adult. He is an adult, but him finally becoming an adult, and the process is twisted, and there's definitely some darker elements, but I like dark comedies a lot of times, and while I wouldn't say this is like a really dark comedy, the idea of lying to somebody who has amnesia to manipulate them to get what you want is dark. It's a dark concept. And the original film, that's some of the criticisms I've heard about that, is it's like a man taking a woman with no memory and then using her as a wife, essentially, basically making her his slave, and that's kind of flipped on its head in this movie, where it's the woman using the man, but it's a dark concept, yet I found it very funny and charming at times, so I was surprised by that. Next up is a stand-up comedy on Netflix, John Mulaney's new comedy called Kid Gorgeous at Radio City. If you haven't seen John Mulaney stand-up and you're a fan of stand-up, you should watch his stand-up for sure. He is hilarious. He was a writer on SNL a few years back, and man, he's got an awesome set in this new special on Netflix. I watched Creep 2 with Mark Duplass. Have you seen Creep, Corey?
I don't think so.
It's a found footage indie serial killer film.
What?
It's you got to check it out. They're really interesting and they're really unsettling. You can't read my review for Creep 2 without it spoiling Creep 1.
Okay.
Because there is like a twist that continues in Creep 2, but it's really, really cool. I enjoy both of them. They're very well done found footage films. Very simple. Like the first one, it's two actors, and both Mark Duplass is one. I forget the other actor's name, but he is the director of the film as well. So it very much feels like a genuine found footage film, as though this was really just all like they decided to film a movie one day and then this is what they did. And I am a fan of Duplass anyways, and I don't know, I really like Creep. Finally got Creep 2 on Netflix, and I like both. I think both are on Netflix, so if you haven't seen them, I recommend both. I rewatched Baby Driver on complete accident. I went to my bathroom, I believe, and I came out and my wife had started Baby Driver, and I was like, well, now I have to watch this again. She has seen this one. She actually went to the theater with me and Taylor on our second screening last summer, but I've watched this film a few times now, and I came out, I couldn't walk away from it once it was on, so. But I finally watched Alpha Dog with our boy Anton Yelchin, and I think maybe one of Justin Timberlake's best performances. Like, I really like Timberlake a lot in that movie. I was intrigued by the film. I don't love it. I did like it. I loved Anton and Justin Timberlake together, though. I thought they were great.
It's based on a true story.
I know.
That makes it even, I mean, obviously, even more unsettling.
But you know who I didn't like in the movie, and you might be upset with me? I hated Ben Foster in the movie. I thought he was awful.
Wasn't he
He's the
D-bag?
Yeah, but that's not why I hate him. I just thought he was overacting like so hard. Like
I really like him, but I feel like he does that probably more often than
that's the vibe I'm getting, because I really like him in Hell or High Water, but I think everything else I've seen him in, he just is like, dude, calm the hell down. Like,
we go way back to like Flash Forward, and I just really love him anyway. But I've only seen that movie like once or twice when I saw it. I still lived in Lake Wales, so it's been a while.
Yeah, I tried to watch it right after, like the week after Anton died, because I was in Boston. Like when he died, I was in the airport in Orlando, leaving to go to Boston for a training, and I got the message on my phone, and I think I messaged you immediately, like, oh my god.
I know, you and Brendan were both coming at me, and it's like, God, guys, heartache, please.
But then, so I watched several of his movies while I was in Boston, and that one I went to start while I was getting on the airplane, and quickly realized that that's not an appropriate movie to watch, like, when other people are around you.
I totally forgot another movie I watched. Go ahead.
So I stopped that, so I finally got back to it 2 years later, and I liked it. Last thing on my list, and I'm sorry that it's so many, but I went this afternoon. We had a half day today at work,
nice.
And so as soon as I could, I dipped out and caught Breaking In, the new Gabrielle Union film, where her kids are taken hostage by a group of criminals who are invading her father's home, and he has like a high-tech security system, so she has to break in to rescue them. It's bad. It's pretty bad. I just wrote my review for it. I have a lot of problems with it. I still enjoy her. I think she's a talented actress, and the kid actors are actually good. It's not great, and there's so many things wrong, in my opinion, with the plot that I point out in my review that will probably be up tomorrow. But yeah, that was luckily it's only an hour and a half, so it wasn't too bad. But what was the movie you left off?
Okay, so on my first flight home from Atlanta to Dallas, my plane had the most wonderful thing ever. It had like the TV screens in the back of the seats.
Oh yeah.
And they had so many great and new movies. But there's this movie I've been wanting to see called Novitiate.
Okay.
And I'm forgetting all the actors in it, but it takes place in the 50s, through the, I guess I'm looking now, through the mid-60s, and it's a 17-year-old girl who's training to become a nun, while the Catholic Church is going through all these changes and trying to be more welcoming and, you know, whatever to people who might want to join their church. And I'm a little pissed, and I'm not paying to rent this movie because my plane landed 10 minutes before the movie ended.
Oh, man.
And it's like 2 hours long, this movie. But it's super interesting, and I'm sad I didn't get to see the last 10 minutes. But it was also terrifying.
Oh.
Not like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, and they even, in the trailer, I forget where I saw this trailer, but
yeah, I'm not actually familiar with it, which is unusual.
The head nun that like runs the school, she is just awful. So yeah.
Well, there you go.
It's pretty good.
That is what we've been watching, folks, and of course we both watched Boogie Nights this week. I saw this film once when I was in high school. I think once. I may not have watched all of it because I'll get into a little bit of specifics momentarily, but this was your first viewing, right, Corey?
Yeah, I've seen bits and pieces of it, but yeah.
Well, before we get into our basic review, let's go over the stats. So, Boogie Nights is from 1997. Paul Thomas Anderson's second film, which I actually didn't realize that it was only his second film until after I watched it. And I mean, he's got a lot of credits, but not a lot of movies. He's got a lot of short stories, and he's done some music videos, but this was his second feature-length film. It has... Oh, hold on, I clicked on Paul Thomas Anderson. It stars a lot of great people, not in the best order on freaking IMDb, but we got Luis Guzman, Burt Reynolds, Julianne Moore, John C. Reilly, Don Cheadle, Heather Graham, I'm going to say Nicole Ari Parker, Mark Wahlberg, William H. Macy, and I think that's the gist of the big names. I feel like there might be one more who shows up later. No? Oh, yes, Thomas Jane. I cannot forget Thomas Jane. And, oh my god, Philip Seymour Hoffman is listed so far down on the list here. But a huge actor, one of his early films, has an 85 Metascore and a 7.9 IMDb user score. And it's a little long. It's at 2 hours and 35 minutes. The summary is the story of a young man's adventures in the California pornography industry of the late 1970s and early 1980s. And I want to say my memory of this movie was that it was much more sexual than it actually is. Yeah, it's actually, considering it's a movie about the porn industry, it's pretty tame. I mean, there's a couple of scenes, mind you, but they're early in the film, and then it kind of shies away from showing a lot of the sexuality, and you see a lot of other stuff, but not really, like, there's not a lot of explicit sex, because even, I think the scene with Julianne Moore and her character, Amber, and Dirk Diggler, his first scene in the movie, is pretty extensive, but it's shot from a long shot, and a lot of times you're only seeing like a few seconds of anything. It's a lot of weird, like just his back or whatever, so it's not too explicit. And then the scene before that, where Roller Girl and him have, I guess what you would call the casting couch audition, with Burt Reynolds creepily watching from the side, is you see her throw her shirt off and jump on top of him, but then the camera looks to Burt Reynolds, and that's it. And you know, when you consider the subject matter, it's done fairly tastefully. And really, again, after that point, I don't think there's like any real nudity in the movie.
Not until the end.
Yes, which the end is a spoiler, I guess. But I also think at this time, I mean, it's a 21-year-old film, which that's kind of shocking. But
I thought it was made in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I did too, but I knew I saw it in high school, so I knew that part was wrong. But because I graduated in 2000, but I would say that it's the ending is iconic because it is, you see Dirk Diggler's his talent, if you will,
His one special
thing, and the reason why it's such an iconic scene is because it's a prosthetic, and it was a big deal, like, that it wasn't really Wahlberg, that everyone wanted everyone to know that was not, like, him. So, which I think when I was in high school, I was too immature to look at that scene, and, I was like, I can't look at another dude's junk kind of thing, and, I'm not that way now, so I wasn't going to be like, oh my god, I'm not going to look. So I was like, oh wow, that looks fake. Like, I totally thought it looked like a prosthetic. Like, I didn't think it looked like a dude's junk to me.
Yeah.
Like, not even because of size or anything, just in general. I was like, nah, it looks like a prosthetic. Why were people even why was it such a big deal to make sure everyone knew it was a prosthetic when it was...
I feel like no matter what, we see women nude in films all the time.
True. Yes.
And people are so shocked when a man is nude because, well, we have to have boobs to sell movies anyways. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it's so not the norm. And there are other things that are just not the norm and that people get uncomfortable about that I think are hilarious. But I think that that's one of the things.
Well, in Super Troopers 2, there is a very funny scene involving a very weird pair of boxer shorts that essentially are like an elephant trunk. But it's a dude's junk is hanging out at the end of that, and there's this whole it's in my face type of situation with one of the troopers. It's pretty funny. And again, ballsy, pun intended, that that they would include it because, like you're saying, so many people get so sketchy around seeing a naked male figure and not a female. And I guess the argument is made that most of the time you do see men topless and you see women topless. You very rarely see a woman bottomless from the front. And so you don't usually see a man bottomless. And obviously there is a difference between a topless woman and a topless man.
Not as shocking, though, when when you get full nudity on a woman, or... True. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Roller Girl, or Heather Graham, who plays Roller Girl, does go full... She rips off her... it's like a one-piece, outfit, I guess. And you do see her for a second, head to toe naked, before she dives on top of Dirk Diggler or whatever his... Eddie, I think is his first name, before he picks his new name in a very funny scene. But, yeah, it's... Well, we haven't really talked about our opinion of the movie as much as we've just talked about the movie. I really enjoyed the movie. I found it complexing at times where I was uncertain of what I was supposed to be taking from it. But after doing some thinking and then watching a couple of YouTube videos that kind of broke some stuff down, I really did start to feel more comfortable with my take on why I thought it was a good movie. So, and obviously a lot of people think this is a good movie, and there's some brilliant stuff in it. I mean, right away there's things like camera work. You see a lot of there's at least 3 scenes of long takes, sometimes called oneers in the industry, where there's no cuts, the camera's moving through a scene. It's one of the most iconic ones, oneers in history, is in Goodfellas when you meet all the guys at the club. And that shot is very much how this film opens. It's definitely reminiscent of Scorsese, although I listened to an interview with Paul Thomas Anderson, actually kind of, I think it might be the director's commentary from the DVD or something, but it was on YouTube, just that scene, and him kind of saying, I didn't really pull from Scorsese, that wasn't what I was thinking. He actually credits, the director from Silence of the Lambs, Richard Demme, is that right? The guy he just passed away. I feel awful that his name's not coming to me right away, but before I forget, I want to give credit to the Autorist YouTube channel. That's where I watched one of the analysis of Boogie Nights, and I sent it to you too. I don't know if you ever went back and watched it or not.
I did. I just watched it today.
But I feel like what he points out is very much important to kind of figuring out what Paul Thomas Anderson was doing, because that was... I assumed this would be like a criticism of the porn industry, And it's really not about the porn industry. Like, it does show you some of the negative aspects of it, but I don't think that's the point. Like, I don't think he's not condemning the porn industry, nor is he advocating for the porn industry. He's just showing the porn industry, and it's involved with the bigger themes that he's dealing with than it is really about the porn industry, which that was, I think, what was throwing me off. Is I was like, what is he trying to say about this? And I don't think he's really trying to say anything about it. I think he's saying something about something else that we'll get into with spoilers. But I enjoyed the movie, so I will like to hear your thoughts now. Did you like Boogie Nights?
I enjoyed it. I felt like it was too long, though. I felt like there was a lot of time wasted. There, I said it. I'm looking at it, and it's 2 hours and 35 minutes, and I really think we could have cut it down to an hour and a half, guys.
Wow,
sorry.
An hour and a half. That's
Yeah.
a lot of cutting. I didn't feel like there was any scenes in particular that I didn't like. I mean, I definitely think there's maybe some characters we could trim out, but then when you look at the theme, especially from the auteurist channel, I feel like he kind of makes a case that all the characters are needed in order for that theme to really hit home. There's some really cool montages in this movie. I really like all of the oneers. I think are really great. I like the opening and the closing oneer with following Burt Reynolds' character, who is like kind of the patriarch of this porn industry that at least this division of the porn industry that we're privy to in the film, playing Jack Horner, who is, the director and chief. I don't know. I don't want to call it. He's not a producer because he has another person that's the producer, but I don't know. I found the film to be generally interesting. It is long though. I won't say. There were definitely points where I'm like, oh my god, please.
I can't point out any particular scenes, but they just kept rehashing stuff all the time, and it's just okay, I get it. He's well endowed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You've already told me 37 other times. I've got it. Or I don't know. I just felt like they were really trying to make sure you got some stuff.
Yeah. But again, I feel like if there was more, if there were a lot of sex scenes in this movie, I would feel like those would probably need to be trimmed out, and he doesn't do that. There's not a lot of, he's not explicitly exploiting. I mean, he has Julianne Moore, who is a acclaimed actress, naked in this film. You know what I mean? That seems like that's above her. I mean, maybe not at this time in '97, but to me now, if Julianne Moore were to do a nude scene, I would be very shocked, right? Based on her not because of her age. I think she's still a very pretty woman for however old she must be in order to have been in this film, but she just doesn't need to do that. If she's doing that now, it's because she either wants to show off her body, or it's because she really believes in the script that's being told. And I think that's the case even here, because he doesn't exploit her. He doesn't keep bringing her back naked in the movie. That one scene is very important. It sets up a lot of the rest of the film. And yet that's it. You don't see her naked again, and you don't see her naked a lot. Yet she's constantly in the film. She's a major role in the movie. And even same thing with Heather Graham's character, who is, she's a much, younger actress here, I think, than Moore was, and she does have that initial scene, and her scenes there's more scenes with her, being sexually active, but they still are only one scene that I can think of where she's naked. I think every other scene she's clothed, or she's doing a sexual act that the camera looks away from, and so you don't see that act. It's either implied or, except the one scene that we'll talk about, I'm sure, in spoilers, but even that scene is done where her clothes don't come off, so again, I think those scenes would have been unnecessary, and there's a couple of scenes for sure that I think I can kind of see what you're saying. And again, I am still not making an argument that this movie needs to be this long. It does feel long.
I had to watch it in 3 parts.
Wow, I did not do that. Although I did pause it several times because I had to go to the bathroom enough because it's a 3-hour movie. But
Mhm.
all right, well, I liked it a little more than Corey. It sounds like, but she does sound positive on it, folks. We're gonna get into talking about whatever we want to. So,
Guys, from here on out, spoiler warning. We'll talk about this movie in great detail. Go watch the movie. It's on Netflix.
yes, that was a pleasant surprise. This is one that we didn't have to rent or buy. Although I would not be opposed to adding this to my collection. I don't know how many times I could rewatch this. And I know I could never teach this movie, at least not in its entirety, because of the subject matter, obviously.
Maybe one day if you're a college professor.
College professor, definitely. High school professor, not a thing. High school teacher, no. But there was a line, and I'm going to say it. I tend not to curse on these. I am going to allow myself, because I'm quoting a line from a film. But did you catch William H. Macy make either he flubbed the line and they kept it in the movie, or the character...
I love that line!
Yes. He says he catches his wife cheating, and he's telling a guy that he just caught her with an ass in her cock. And I was like, hold up. Because he doesn't miss a beat, and neither does the other guy.
No,
they just keep
the
going.
guy doesn't even blink. They just keep going.
So I don't know if he flubbed the line, or if he's so flustered as a character that he just messed up the words, and the guy chooses not to correct him.
I rewound that part because I was like, okay, maybe I'm crazy, and that is not what he just said. But I rewatched it and I was like, heck yes. I feel like they were just driving home how frustrated and pissed off and everything else that he is, because his wife is she's not even getting paid.
Yeah.
Yep. Jesus, come on. And always, her husband walks in on her cheating on him in his house.
3
and
times.
She just tells him to shut the door. I will whoop you, woman. You know what I mean? I just, and everybody calls him, what do they call him? Little Chris?
Little Bill. That's his
Bill.
name. Yep.
Little Bill. And I'm just like, how? That's so disrespectful. I don't even, I felt like that was just really disrespectful, as far as.
Oh, yeah. Which, that could be one of the storylines that could be trimmed, although it doesn't take up a lot of screen time. We have 3 scenes, though, that are centered around him catching his wife cheating on him. One we see, which you mentioned, was him walking in on the wife in his house, and her telling him to get out, which is ridiculous. Then her doing it in the middle of a driveway at a party with a stranger, and people circled around her. And then the last time is at the New Year's Eve party, which we don't see her. He walks in the room. We know that it's happening. He comes back, gets a gun. That's another time there's a oneer. We follow him from the room to the car, all one take, no cuts until he pulls the trigger. And we cut to the room to see them shocked at the sound of the gunshot, seconds before the new year starts. And that's it. It's just those 3 scenes. Bill has some minor parts with the other characters earlier, but those could be cut.
But the scenes like that were shocking were the ones that I enjoyed.
And again, I'm not advocating that. I like those scenes too. I'm just saying that's time away from the main story that I think might be enforcing the problems with the people, but not really not hitting home the theme of family that the auteurist points out is one of the major elements of this film.
I was shocked because we heard him bang bang shoot the wife and whoever she was doing at that point in time.
Yep.
But then when he turns the gun and shoots himself, that just took me by complete surprise. I was waiting for him to get hauled off by the police, or you know what I mean? It was just so quick, and I am not advocating anybody shooting their spouse or hurting them, even though I was whoop them. But it was just, I don't know, because you could say that that's temporary insanity and you lost it and you blah, 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 blah. But then, I don't know.
Well, you could tell he was hurt each time he caught her cheating, even though he stayed with her. You could tell it was hurting him, and that was too much. In my head, though, from when I saw this as a kid, I had merged the Scotty, which is Philip Seymour Hoffman's character, who is a gay man working in the porn industry who's at a time when it's not okay to be gay, or at least that's the implications that were given, because he makes a move at the same party on Dirk Diggler, or Mark Wahlberg's character. And he's in his car and he's crying and saying how effing stupid he is, repeating it over and over again. My memory was that he killed himself. So I merged the William H. Macy and the Scotty character, even though Scotty is in the rest of the movie mainly as a background character. He doesn't have a major role, but that little arc when he makes a pass at Mark Wahlberg's character is, you can see, even from the first moment he meets Mark Wahlberg, you can see how much he is into him. It's a great performance from Philip Seymour Hoffman, although a very minor arc and nothing really comes of it. I would say Dirk handles the attempted kiss relatively well. Like, he's definitely not okay with it, and he is a little aggressive.
Try to, like, hurt him or embarrass him.
Correct. He just like, dude, what are you doing? And then he kind of lets it go, even though, like, Scotty doesn't quite let it go. But he's like, dude, stop, just stop. Like, it's not, I'm going to hurt you or I'm going to tell everybody. It's just like, please don't put me in this position. I can't do this. I'm not interested in that. And considering how dumb Dirk Diggler is portrayed throughout the film and how oblivious he is to so much, the fact that he is not, lashing out and destroying Scotty is refreshing, I think. And I do think, again, that ties back to the theme of family. And speaking of, before we get into family more specifically, the fight with the mom, when she kicks him out of the house and says he's useless and everything.
Worthless.
I was so uncomfortable with her. Like, the thing she was picking at felt like she wanted him and couldn't have him.
Oh, I didn't. I felt like she was a colossal bitch, and I'm just, like, watching her be so controlling, and she's, like, pissed off that he's working 2 jobs, and I'm like, seriously?
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's what bugs me. It's like, you're his mom. Why do you care who he's with, I guess? Like, there was no indication of it being, like, that this woman was bad.
Relationship.
Correct. There was, and in fact, that woman's never seen again. We see her one scene with Mark Wahlberg jumping on the bed and, like, her saying he has an amazing genitalia. And
special.
And then that's the end of it. But, the way he fights for her and the way the mom is lashing out, like, it, to me, is like, it felt like she was jealous that he had her and that he wasn't there more. And then when you think about how the father is very passive and she's really aggressive with him too, you almost wonder if there is something going on, but maybe not even that she wants her son, but maybe, like, very clingy. And I definitely am not a fan of mothers like that.
Felt like she was just trying to control everybody. I felt like she, I didn't get any, like, sexual or anything like that. Or
I think it was just the comments she was making that bugged me. Like,
well, I mean, what if your child was just out sleeping with somebody you know is a floozy or something? You know what I mean? Like, I think that would upset any parent.
Agreed. It was, but then you tie in with the job thing.
Yeah,
it's just like all of that together felt like a jealous.
And I didn't feel like
argument.
Yeah, and I didn't feel like he was disrespectful. It wasn't like they showed him coming in late at night and disrupting everybody's sleep, or that he made messes, or he was inconsiderate of his mom and dad. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's all. Like, again, I'm not saying it was obliquely, like, over the top or anything. Just that I was uncomfortable by her, and I definitely think we're supposed to be. And I do I get uncomfortable with confrontation like that anyway. So, not saying it was meant to be more than just that, but I was. And again, she's a famous actress. Her name's not in front of me, but she has a relatively small role because we only see her twice in the movie. The breakfast scene, and then that scene when he leaves her and goes off to go somewhere, and she's very abusive, that you're an idiot, you're never going to do anything with your life.
That is what bothered me the most, is how do you talk to somebody that way? Yeah,
I mean, and she's supposed to be awful, and it is the inciting incident that makes him finally commit to going to Hollywood and trying to do something with himself, especially after being offered that type of job from John.
Okay, so I feel like we need to back up a little bit to his job at the club. How does everybody know about his junk and that he just like lets people pay him to look at it or do an act?
I don't think that's the implication. I think that he's just so good looking is what we're supposed to take, that people approach him, and he happens to have a magical wing.
I just took it as the magical part that everybody just knows. Well, you can have $10 to look at it or $20 to,
yeah,
and I don't know. I'm a little confused. Like, does Roller Girl work at the place too? Because that's what it seems like at first. And
I don't think so. I think she's just there and she's always on skates.
Does it bother you that these kids are like high school kids? Because that, like, he's 17.
Oh, yeah, and she's.
And we
see
how
her.
old she is.
Well, she leaves what
high
appears
school.
to be her senior year, because that test. It's implied that test is like the final test kind of thing, and she bails on that because it's too hard or whatever, and she that becomes a plot point later in the film. She talks about getting her GED. We don't see much of her home life, but we assume that it's not great, given the fact that she's doing porn and whatnot. And then the whole relationship with Amber, which is Julianne Moore's character, and that scene. Well, that's where the family dynamic really comes in. You have Burt Reynolds' character being the patriarch. You have Amber Waves being the mother, which is disturbing, and I do think enforces my first point a little bit, that she tells Dirk to call her mother after they have sex, and they do seem to have a relationship at some point that's more than motherly, yet she refers to him as a son and constantly, call me mom. So I think that reinforces my issue with his mom, that like the replacement surrogate mother takes on a sexual element to him. But obviously you have Dirk, who is the young kid trying to become a man. You have Roller Girl, who's a young girl trying to find her, herself. And you have that dysfunctional family unit, that when they first assemble, it's a surrogate family, which is something I'm a big advocate for, that you don't, blood does not make a family. It is the people you surround yourself with, the people who care about you, people who take care of you. And it is, obviously they're very, very dysfunctional though. And that is, you see them all go through their drug phase. I do want to talk real quick about John C. Reilly's character. I love when Dirk Diggler and him meet and they become friends at the pool party. It very much reminds me of Step Brothers, with when him and Will Ferrell, John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell, become friends finally after like they are kind of forced into each other's lives. There's that competitive kind of like, oh yeah, I got this, what about this, and like, how much can you bench? That whole exchange cracks me
You go
up.
First.
Yeah,
nope,
you go
we'll
first.
do it at the same time.
Yeah.
Or like, I forget, what is he? He's like, how much can you bench? 250. And then he's like, oh, well, I can bench 400.
Yeah,
it was pretty funny.
The norm of two guys competing. Yeah, I loved that whole relationship, and them in the recording studio later in the movie when they're trying to do the songs that are so bad, and he's just loving it.
Bad.
They're so bad, and
we're guaranteed. Like, no, you're not. Wait.
Yeah. Well, and oh man, the drugs really hit them hard, and you see the fall from grace. But even their first, when their porn movies are doing like stories and they're kind of doing like their take on James Bond, it cracks me up. But you know what though? You mentioned how long this movie is. I feel like there's got to be at least another half hour or 45 minutes where there's a subplot where John C. Reilly's character gets jealous of Dirk, because when they're editing the film, Burt Reynolds' character a couple times tells the editor to trim John C. Reilly's character out of scenes, and I felt like that was pushing for a subplot where John C. Reilly gets upset that Wahlberg's getting pushed and he isn't, but that never comes into the movie, so I feel like that got cut out of the film. I could be wrong, maybe I'm reading into the action a little too much, but it felt like they were setting that up, especially with that early competitiveness, and then like them working together to build this movie, and then the director starting to trim out John C. Reilly from a collaborative effort, as though he is not as important. I felt like they were pushing for a subplot that never comes out, and John C. Reilly's character is like 100% loyal to Dirk throughout 90% of this movie. Even when Mark snorts crystal meth and loses his stuff, literally in many ways, and has the big fight where he says, "You're not my mom" to Amber, "You're not my dad" to John. John fires him. John C. Reilly leaves with him, which I didn't expect. I expected him to stay, and he follows Dirk instead. So there is like a brotherly love between the two of them that I thought was great.
Agreed. And I don't remember him coming back later on with him, though.
He does. He's doing magic.
He does?
Though.
Oh, that's right. But does he come back to the house with them?
Yeah, there's a scene with them all together. It's very much like it's reminiscent of like a family dinner. Like everybody's back for Thanksgiving almost at the end during the winter when we see John walking through the house and kind of everything's back the way it's supposed to be. Because there is that everybody falls from grace in this movie. Everybody's at the top of the world in like 1979, and then the 80s come and everything starts to fall apart.
Mm-hmm. I liked the film that you sent me because the analysis.
Yes, the Autorist. Is the YouTube channel.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, please go ahead. I've talked a lot.
I feel like you usually do. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Not
probably.
that that's a bad thing. I just don't talk a lot. I thought they did a really good job with building the suspense in the scene. I'm forgetting the other guy who goes with them, but when they're going, I mean, it shows everybody's fall from grace, but it also shows how desperate they all are.
Yeah.
And that part of the movie I thought was very interesting. And I was like, why did it take 2 hours to get to this? But where they go to that guy's house to sell him the cocaine that they cut with, like, I guess some bad cocaine, like cheap cocaine.
I think it's just baking soda. I think it's just...
Oh, was it?
Yeah. Like
holy heck.
Thomas Jane says, like, we dump a bag of baking soda into it. Which Thomas Jane was the 2004 Punisher. And I like that Punisher, even though a lot of people hate it. But I'm a fan of Thomas Jane because of the Punisher. I haven't seen him in a whole lot else, so I was really excited when when he first showed up. I'm like, that guy looks familiar, and I had to go like deep diving into IMDb's credits to find him on the list. I'm like, oh my god! And then, did you catch who the actor was that was the drug addict?
He looked like the guy from Can't Hardly Wait. He looks like the nerdy guy in Love Burger is who he reminded me of, but I don't know who it is.
It's Alfred Molina, who is Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man 2.
Oh!
He's in Cigars and Cigarettes, or... What was the... crap. We watched it. The cigarette movie with Jack White.
Cigarettes and Coffee, or Coffee and...
He's with Steven... oh my god. I'm forgetting everything. He's with the guy from the Tourist... The Trip movies. Steven... Why can't I think of his name? Oh man. Oh well.
He's one of them's a director, right? Or
yes,
something in the
he's
other
trying
one.
to do a movie with him. Yeah. Alfred Molina is a very well respected actor, but I was so shocked to see he was like super skinny in this movie. Not that he's ever like fat necessarily, but he's a bigger guy. From what I remember from like Spider-Man 2 and stuff, he's not thin, and he's like really really thin in this movie. And yeah, almost unrecognizable. Because I'm like. I saw his name in the credits when I found Thomas Jane. I found him, and I'm like, where does he show up? And then when that guy showed up, I'm like, is that Alfred Molina? And I just had to like look past the hair, and I'm like, yep, that's Molina. That's crazy. I do love that scene too, like that whole exchange. It's crazy, it's stressful, and I'm so on board.
I'm trying not to say the F word, but the freaking firecrackers. I was just waiting for shots to be fired.
Yeah.
That's what I was waiting for the whole time. I'm like, they're doing this to cover up when they murdered these fools.
John C. Reilly and Mark Wahlberg in that scene are so perfect, though. Like they're, you just see it on their face. They're both like, why are we still here? What is happening? Why are we not leaving? And it's just like when Thomas Jane pulls the gun out, and it's just like, you're like, what are you doing, you moron? And man, I love that sequence so much.
nuts. It was so stressful though, and I hate the sound. I'm not like, oh my god, I hate firecrackers, oh my god, but I'm just like, why? What's the point? And I find it stressful, but oh.
It's good filmmaking. I mean, we're watching these movies from the same director because we're wanting to see expert filmmaking because he's got such a reputation. I mean, Phantom Thread and There Will Be Blood are the first two films of his that I believe I saw. Actually, I guess technically I saw Boogie Nights first, but I wasn't
not an appreciator.
Even more, this was his second film, so I wouldn't have known to be on the lookout for this yet. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't have. Like
go ahead.
I would like to say that high school me watched this film excited about the possibility of an amazing film. I definitely watched it because it was about the porn industry, and I was 15 or 16, and it was on HBO. You know, I'm like, oh, and it's not that though. It's not that type of movie at all because it's by no means glorifying the porn industry. Again, there is nothing really. I mean, there's definitely sexuality in this movie, but it's not meant to be like a sexy movie. And at the same time, again, I don't think it's condemning the porn industry.
No, it was very neutral.
Well, this is not like porn simply for the sake of sexuality, because that's what Burt Reynolds is saying. It's like, it's weird hearing him give like the artist speech that like, I want people to get what they get out of porn, but I also want them to be so engrossed in our story that they keep watching the movie. And that's like, it's such a weird statement because I don't know if that's how actual porn directors were, like if they genuinely wanted to make a movie that had sex in it, but it was still a movie, that there was still a story that people would care about the characters and follow. And I was really surprised. I think it was the Autoris video where he shows like that it's based on an actual porn star.
Yeah.
And that they like shot for shot remade like some of the scenes from this guy's movies. I'm like, holy cow, I had no idea. That was crazy. Super crazy movie. Like that, it's, it is Paul Thomas Anderson is immensely talented, and the more I see of his movies, the more I'm growing to be a fan. I have yet to see one that I don't like things. I have yet to see one that doesn't have a really, really interesting sense of like storytelling. Because there's some funny parts in this movie, despite how dark the movie goes. Like there's some really, really dark scenes, but there's some really, really funny scenes too. And it's I think the humanity that you see on display in his films, like. It's always about the characters. The characters in Inherent Vice are so important. The characters in this movie are far more important than the plot. Like the plot's there in this. I would say the plot's easier to follow in this movie than Inherent Vice for sure. But it's really more about the people involved with the plot than it is about the plot itself. Like, he wants to be a porn star. He becomes a porn star. He falls from being successful, and then ends up apparently everyone goes back to it, which is where I say I don't think he's. If everyone who was in porn failed and life became hell forever, I would say this is an indictment of the porn industry. But instead, all of them come back to porn, and their lives look good again at the end of the movie. Everybody looks happy, and everybody's back together, and everyone seems like they're in the right direction. Despite all of the horrible things they went through, everybody's back. And so it doesn't seem to be... And I don't think he's advocating porn. I think he's advocating what the auteur says is family, that they need each other, and their lives fall apart when they're not together. It just so happens that porn brought them together, and ultimately reunites them, but it was never about the movies. It was about the need for other people, other like-minded or non-judgmental people,
Mm-hmm. I liked so everybody knows that I'm watching Big Love again for the second time.
Yep.
And one of my favorite characters, although she's crazy, is Wanda. And Wanda is the same actress it's the same actress that plays the blonde woman that becomes Buck's baby mama.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like, oh my god. But she has like dark brunette hair in Big Love, and I was like, that voice. She has a very distinct voice. But I liked seeing her in something else, and something that came out way before Big Love did. But I liked that story with Buck and her when they're trying to start a legitimate business and he's not being given a chance, even though he has all the paperwork to back him up and all this stuff because he was a porn star. And I think it's so funny, not funny, haha, but like we still see that some, like today, how many times do we see in the news that a teacher has gotten fired because she used to be, or she's been an adult film,
any professional, yeah. It's still a taboo industry, like and it's obviously it's gotten way more accessible to become a part of the industry because of the availability of cameras and the internet. You know, it doesn't take much to be able to make a movie. I mean, that's where celebrity sex tapes, like when Pam Anderson's sex tape came out in the 90s, was a huge ordeal because like someone had to break into their house and steal a VHS cassette and make copies of it. Where now it's like someone hacked a phone, like, and everybody's videos are out on the world. And that's not counting the people who are doing it on purpose, you know, which are tons of people who are because again, you have a camera in your bedroom, you charging, mind you, right next to where you would make love traditionally. So like it is a bigger industry now. So it's almost like if they remade this movie and not remade it, but like set it in today's time, how different the culture would be. Like, because there is even a debate there, which I think is a very film person thing, is switching from film to VHS. You know, like that transition and the quality and the fear of it losing its artistry and becoming just, you know, like a home movie. And that is definitely what's happened even more so now, because now it's not even VHS tape, now it's your phone, which arguably phone's recording quality is substantially better than any VHS recorder ever was. But still, you know, there's that whole conversation that Little Bill has with the cinematographer when his wife is having sex on the blacktop, about like the lighting and the lenses, and the guy's just like, whatever. He's like, hey, you know, I'm just trying to make it look good. Like, and you're like, wow, he's talking about making it look professional, like a movie, and he's using real terms that in other movies would be used for an adult film. And it was like, you can kind of see a little bit of commentary, I think, that PTA is making, that these were people who were trying to make art and maybe couldn't do it in the traditional landscape of film, and so found another outlet for that same desire of storytelling and craftsmanship, that eventually gets replaced to, you know, just making money. Because there are, like all film, there's always those people who are more interested in the commercial aspect of it than the artistry of it. And that could also be what PTA is saying too, is in a way, even, you know, actors who succumb, I mean, look at Wahlberg's career and how many movies he's made that are not art, that are just commercial, just essentially treating him like a porn star. He's a piece of meat. You know, take off your shirt, because the girls like it when you take off your shirt. You know, like, there could be a comparison there that PTA is making, even in his early stages of his career. But then again, I might just be projecting or reading into something that's not meant to be there. But
so I liked the part, not like, yeah, okay, I was like, yes, but when he goes in to buy donuts and then we find out that his girlfriend is pregnant,
oh yeah,
and I'm like, God, that girl wants a lot of donuts, and then we see her belly, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But then he goes in and he's just trying to order his donuts, and this guy comes in and is trying to hold up the donut shop, and I'm like, dude, it's a donut shop. How much could they be making? But apparently I was wrong. And it's like a domino effect. Some guy sitting at a table shoots the stick-up guy. The stick-up guy, it's just a big mess, and everyone but Buck ends up dying. And then there's that big paper bag on the floor with all that cash in it, and then it's wrong, it's stealing, but I liked that he got to start his business and he got to be legitimate, and I loved that, you know, all of his porn buddies were coming and helping him direct his, you know, his commercial, and I liked Amber
directed it.
Yeah, but I didn't understand, so it's showing everyone at their most desperate. And here Dirk is, waiting for something, I'm guessing drugs, on the sidewalk. He's waiting, and some guy asks him, "Hey, do you want to get in my truck while you wait?" Blah 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 blah. And then here he goes again, being paid for
someone to watch
people
him.
watching him.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was drug out too, because I felt like that scene was really long, and then finally this other truck full of guys comes up beside them, and then they beat the crap out of him, and it's just like, why? And why are they calling him the F word? I hate that word.
Oh, well, it was, remember the time period. It's the early 80s. The
But
guy...
how did they know?
It was a setup. One, I don't think he was waiting for drugs. I think that was a, like, remember, like, in spy movies, there's that, like, the code word, like, you say this, and then I say this, and then I know that you're not a cop. That's what I think that was. He was, that hotel, I think, was, like, notorious, like, prostitution thing, and he was picked up by a guy looking to pick up a gay prostitute, although he says, I'm not gay, I just want to watch, which is, you know, that's that denial homosexuality, I think, of the 80s, and 90s, and so, but then it's a setup, like, he was never wanting to do it, he was just going to prove that he was gay, and they were going to beat him up afterwards, because it's not cool. At least that's the implication of the actions, because there's no cell phones, there's no way for him to communicate, hey guys, turns out this guy's not able to do the thing I want, so let's beat him up. Like, it's clearly the plan. And then that's all cross-cut with Burt Reynolds' character, kind of, he's fallen into where he's having to use VHS, and it's definitely changing the type of movies that he's making, and he's doing this experiment, quote-unquote, where he has poor roller girl in a limousine, and they're going to pick up some random guy who is not going to be willing to just follow directions, and I don't know what they were thinking, but she was just going to have sex with some random guy off the street who happens to be...
I'm just thinking AIDS?
Yeah, so many things, right? There's so many concerns with it. And then it happens to be someone she went to high school with, apparently, that she's in, you know, she lies and says, I don't know who that is, but clearly we do. I think it was the friend in the scene where she leaves the high school, that there's a guy, like, making, like, blowjob motions.
I didn't think that was a friend.
No, I don't think that's a friend. I think the guy in the limousine is a friend of that guy, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
I think we might see him in that scene. I don't think he's the one who does the gesture, but I think he's the one who, like, makes, like, the, like, laughy face at her afterwards. I think. I could be completely wrong. I might just be assuming that. But, and then, the way Burt Reynolds and Roller Girl beat the crap out of that guy.
She, like, curb stomps that
with her roller
bastard
skates.
with her roller skates. Yeah. Did you think of American History X? Because I did.
I did, even though I still have not ever seen American History X. It is on my gap list. I know. Well, I know how tough of a watch it's supposed to be, so it's been like, I should watch it, but I'm also afraid of watching it. So, but yeah, that scene's cross-cut with him getting beat down, and it's two opposite sides, but both are connected to, the same idea that they're all falling from grace. Things are out of control. They all need each other, and that's what we get at the end. I don't know if there's any other scenes that I'm like, oh, I got to talk about that. I'm looking through my notes here. I like Don Cheadle's character Buck a lot, though. I thought he had some of my favorite moments in the movie when he's trying to sell that stereo system, and you can tell it's funny because he's supposed to be an expert at these stereo systems, but it always sounds like he does not know what he's talking about.
Yeah, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
But I found him very comedic, and I really liked his character. I love when he has, like, the Rick James look on, like, because he has, like, the braid, like the braided wig and stuff. That part cracked me up. But
and I don't, oh man,
even
I'm trying to be a cowboy.
Yeah, well, and then his radio store where he's, like, totally trying to buy into, like, the 80s hip hop movement, like with the super cool stereo store or whatever it is. Like, it's like the worst name ever. Like, but yeah, I really liked him in this, and I'm not crazy about Don Cheadle. Mostly I've only seen him in the Marvel movies, and he's not been my favorite element of those. But I really liked him in this, so I need to give some of his leading roles. Like, I've never seen Traitor or Hotel Rwanda because of the subject matter of Hotel Rwanda. That was one that I just didn't want to.
It's a good film, though.
Oh, I've heard amazing things about it. I just know how the story is so, like,
and that it was so recent. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, stuff happens today, and I'm like, seriously, guys.
It came out in a time when I was avoiding anything like that, serious or sad. And I'm not avoiding that now, although it's still like, those aren't always movies I'm in the mood for. You know, like, oh, let's be depressed and sad for a couple hours.
I would like to be sad right now.
So it's one I'm very much aware I should watch, much like 12 Years a Slave, that I just can't bring myself to watch because of the subject matter being so tough. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say. I'm gonna go with my review. Let me ask first: is there anything else you want to discuss?
I just think it's so funny that we go the whole film and they're talking about his one special thing the whole time. Oh yeah. And then finally, like the final scene, like.
Yeah, and he pulls it out for like no apparent reason other than
I think he's just trying to hype himself up. I mean, I don't really know.
Because I mean, early in the film, he takes off his pants, but he's got like the Speedo underwear on, and you see the bulge. But now he just like literally like unzips his pants, pulls it out, lets it hang for a minute, so we see it. He's looking at it in the mirror, and then puts it away, and walks out to go do his thing. Wearing a very Miami Vice looking outfit, like just really making sure we get that it's like 1983 or so, because he's got like the white suit with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows. But I'm gonna go this movie. I find I feel like I gotta say must see for this. I think it's got so many great film elements. I really like a lot of the characters. I actually really like Burt Reynolds in this. I don't think I even mentioned that.
Me too. I feel like I haven't seen enough of his stuff, and I feel like.
Well, most of his stuff is older. Like the prime Burt Reynolds is like 70s. I've never seen Smokey and the Bandit. I still haven't watched Deliverance. Those are two of his biggest movies, and I've not seen either one of those. And I did see this at some point, but I don't remember this movie as well as I do right now, or I didn't remember it. And I think he's in Striptease, which I saw, but it's like that movie is way over the top and silly. Like, it's not really taking itself seriously at all. So I don't think he was, but this definitely made me want to give him more of a chance.
Agreed. And I'm always stuck between two. I should have my own special rating system. I'm between Not Quite Golden Pony Boy and Must See.
Yeah, and I'm leaning in that side of it too. Like, I wouldn't say this is high up on my must see list, but I thought it was great, and you just see a lot of amazing filmmaking in this movie. And PTA's ability to tell a story visually is definitely strong, and there's definitely some room for some trim. Again, you could probably take out a lot of the Thomas Jane stuff, even though that scene is great. That scene is probably unnecessary because we can see that they're falling into drugs without going to sell drugs and how they've hit rock bottom. Like, you can pull all of that out and see the rock bottom still there. Like, it's still very apparent that they've hit rock bottom. The scene with the music when they're yelling at the studio guy, like, give us our demo tapes, that pretty much shows rock bottom. They don't have the money to pay for their demo. Like, that whole thing is enough to establish that they're not doing well.
But I think I'll go Not Quite Golden Pony Boy.
So between the two of us, we're in the middle of both. I think that makes perfect sense. Next week, we're going to be watching another Paul Thomas Anderson film as we continue our exploration. One that I think you have started but didn't finish. I could be wrong. That is Magnolia.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so you tried to watch it. You couldn't do it.
It was long. It was
that much. Seems to be a trend, right? Like,
yeah. I know. For now on, I'm going to do some research before we choose any directors. Be like, all of their movies are 2.5 hours. I don't think I can be fully committed. What?
I didn't realize how long this movie is.
Isn't it like 3 hours?
It's 3 hours and 8 minutes.
Yeah.
So Magnolia from 1999, which I believe now is his third film, given the time frame. Directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. We have some returning cast. Pat Healy's in this movie. I'm always a fan of him. I hate how IMDb lists the credits on these movies. Patton Oswalt shows up in it. It stars Tom Cruise, although he's apparently way down on the list here. There he is. Tom Cruise. I saw Julianne Moore's in there. Philip Baker Hall is in it for the third film, I believe. Thomas Jane's in it again. So William H. Macy returns. There's other people here, but I'm trying to just look for Philip Seymour Hoffman, who is in several of PTA's films. John C. Reilly's in his film again. So a lot of returning cast members as well. Tom Cruise obviously being the new big name that shows up in this one. Alfred Molina shows up again. There's so many people in this movie. Anderson does not do small cast in his early films. Luis Guzman shows up again. Orlando Jones. I'm just kind of naming people I recognize. Clark Gregg is in this movie. That's cool. Don't see him too often. Oh, Paul F. Tompkins is in here too. That's a comedian I'm a fan of. Mary Lynn Raj. A lot of people is what I'm saying in this movie. Oh man, Michael Bolton from Office Space is in this movie. Not the singer, the guy who plays Michael Bolton. I haven't seen him in too many things. 3 hours and 8 minutes, Corey. What the crap? An epic mosaic of interrelated characters in search of love, forgiveness, and meaning in the San Fernando Valley. It's got a 77 Metascore, 8.0 IMDb user score, and one that I've never seen, and you didn't make it all the way through?
Yeah. So this is probably going to take like 3 segments.
I mean, geez, 3 hours is a bit much. I might watch this over the weekend instead, because this is... I still have a lot of like class left this week because the seniors are gone, but I still have another 2 weeks before I'm on summer break, and 3 hours is a lot of time. Plus, Deadpool 2 comes out this Thursday.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, folks, I think this one is only available to rent or buy digitally. It is not available streaming for free anywhere, to my knowledge. So if you're going to watch it with us, you'll have to rent it from one of those services. But we'd love to hear your thoughts on Magnolia or Boogie Nights or Paul Thomas Anderson in general. You can email us, contact@burkreviews.com. That is contact@burkreviews.com. You can follow us on social media. I'm at Burke Reviews on Twitter and Instagram and Letterboxd. Corey?
At Corey R. Star with 2 R's on the end if you like lots of pictures of cats.
And we are still looking to add people to our Patreon. I'm hoping, one of my long-term goals for BurkeReviews.com is to offer a scholarship or scholarships at some point to students at Lake Wales High School, which is where I teach, who are looking to pursue arts or journalism as a career. And the Patreon, one of our goals on the Patreon is if we get 1,000 subscribers, that we will start that scholarship with a single one $500 scholarship every year to a student at Lake Wales High School who is, again, going to pursue art or journalism or film as a career in college. And that's something I'd like to continue to grow. Obviously, the money that we get from Patreon helps pay for movie tickets, the storage fees for the podcast and the site, and all of those things that just add up. Not looking to turn a profit or make a living doing this, just to try to break even and hopefully give back. So if you'd like to do that, you can go to patreon.com/BurkeReviews, or you can go to BurkeReviews.com and click on our link to Patreon. Otherwise, Corey, you got anything else you want to add?
No, I hope everybody has a great week.
And we'll be back next week with our review of Magnolia. And I might even try to watch The Master this week, since that one's not going to make it in our monthly reviews, but I do want to watch that one. But until next time, folks, keep watching movies.
This has been a Burke Reviews podcast. BurkeReviews.com.